map for it, whether it's Carousel or whether it is Cradle. Both are great maps for some of these flank-heavy playstyles. If you get a Captain America in there or a Daredevil, great stuff coming out here. Grove, I do think, ends up kind of being the oddball, and if these two teams, kind of like I predict, are going to try and lean a little bit more into the front-to-back style with the Double Dino comp, I think that's going to be the one that both of these two teams are going to want to get the dub on, especially considering Vulcan Red. You know, we talk about synergy. It's so much easier to just find that synergy magically with a front-to-back style than it is with a dive.
And now we head into the ban draft. So far, it's going to be the same Gambit first ban. We have been seeing a little bit more variations after the Gambit first ban, as Vulcan Red thinking about what they want to take away on the side of Kanga. So they will take away the Black Cat. So a little bit of that aggression going to be taken off the table as Vulcan Red will be securing the one side Black Cat and foregoing the Dino ban for no, it's going to be Kanga thinking about, do they want to ban out the Dino here, as both sides will take advantage of this ban together?
I do think, though, with the Black Cat, that Vulcan Red are immediately making me eat my words, and they're going to try and go for a dive, and in fact, even secure a one-sided dive with that Captain America ban. There's still time for Kanga to respond with a ban of their own, but they go for the Protect onto it. They will lock that one in. And I do think that OCE as a region is kind of starting to show a little bit of its colors. I think they're starting to value the Black Cat a little bit more than the Devil Dino in the current landscape, which could potentially be something that sets this region apart from the rest of the playing field, because, you know, all the scrims that I got to spectate, all the intel that I had from the Americas and the EMEA teams, it was all Devil Dino all the time. Very few teams were willing to give him up one-sided and lean more into something like the Black Cat.
And it looks like Kanga will be the ones to secure the Devil Dino, but Vulcan Red, they still will have access to the Dino as well. So Vulcan Red will save onto the Cap and the Black Cat, but Kanga now using their final save on the Luna Snow, so there will be some anti-dive help coming in as Vulcan Red finalize their final ban on the Mantis. As Kanga,
I'm not judging.
There's a lot of that anti-dive potential as Vulcan Red go for the more aggressive approach. As Kanga, do they want to go for the more passive approach, or do they want to match the aggression that Vulcan Red are throwing out?
I think not even with just comps, I think that's a very aggressive pick and ban phase coming out from Vulcan Red in general. Like, you're going for a one-sided Black Cat with the Protect and the ban, and then doubling down on that with a one-sided Protect and ban onto the Captain America. That means that you have a plan and you don't care what else happens to you. You are going to play what you think is your strongest look, and that might be something that, if you're Kanga, maybe you could be a little bit intimidated by, and maybe that's why we're seeing so many of these counter dive options coming out. Maybe they have scrimmed each other. Maybe they know that Vulcan Red like to play this real fast-paced style. They like to run at you and hit you hard, and they don't even need the Devil Dino to do it, right? Like, you know, Vulcan Red right now, they're flashing the good old classic dive duo, the Venom and the Captain America, and that might be more than enough.
And everyone else on Vulcan Red are going to try to match the dive, right? Genzo giving Chronix the Symbiote Shenanigans team up. Ancient, even on the Star-Lord, means that he can also help out with the full dive coming in for Vulcan Red. And Kanga, it really seems like they have an idea of what Vulcan Red are cooking up here. Because Kanga will have Tinny on the Dino, ideally staying near Rester and Juicy to make sure that they don't get exploded by the dive potential of Vulcan Red as we head into the mission area being opened up in 10 seconds time. Vulcan Red taking control of the high ground, while Kanga will use the portal and take control of the mission area as a whole.
But again, this is that sub-map on Krakoa that I think lends itself a little bit more to the dive compositions, because the verticality and Kanga just put themselves on the low ground, give the high ground up to Vulcan Red and try and play for control of the point. They do manage to clean up Genzo and get the first cap here, and if they can get a couple more elims, they can potentially secure it, and Isaac with a Spore Bomb there will find Paydirt, and that is 2 men down. Kanga getting the first control of the point, and that does mean now with the Groot they can control this choke point.
And Vulcan Red tried to go for the dive, but it didn't work out. So with the one pick, Kanga are able to secure the mission area. Rest of Vulcan Red, though, need to find something in the neutral area, but if you're running a dive composition like this, it's going to be really hard to make space for your team if you're not actively trying to disrupt the backline. Everyone on Vulcan Red now is spreading out, trying to clamp down Kanga. Ancient doing his best to try to disrupt the backline. Rester does get taken down.
That's going to be a good early KO there. Traded out, though, for Quan, and that's going to be a lot of that pressure onto the backline alleviated for Kanga, and they should be able to sit pretty for the time being. And as long as they can keep Ancient at bay, not let him get any of those elemental barrages, or just a little bit of primary fire in there to clean up the Elim onto Juicy, that's going to be rezzed back up. But again, that's ground given that Kanga can't really afford, as Vulcan Red, like the vultures that they are starting to swarm in. But Juicy coming in, and with a nice little 2-tap, takes down Ancient. Rezzer is there with him, with the Ice Arts, has one for Miracle, and that should be Kanga winning this fight handily, but Juicy is not quite done putting on a show.
And here's the problem, right? Vulcan Red were never able to flip the mission area. Kanga, with all of these ultimates available, they still have control of that point. Vulcan Red needs to make a move on here. We're quickly crossing into Final Fight territory with Vulcan Red trying something to make happen, but nothing is working right now. Vulcan Red still staying on this dive composition. It's hard to dive when you don't have as much space.
And Kanga haven't had to use an ult at all. Lil Rang gonna find a quick little neutral KO there onto Rezzer. It's about as high value as you can possibly ask for, and once again, Kanga being drawn back to the point as the back cap was threatened. And Sung Inferno coming out with an amplifier from Sector. Revzy looking to try and find it, but the tainted voltage from Juicy and a triple coming out, waiting for the Jeff ultimate. Wants to try and find his fourth. Chronix is slippery, but he is sliding his way right off of the point. Overtime whiff will tick over as Vulcan Red take to the skies, but the point, it's on the ground, and Kanga, they stand their ground and capture Cradle, and that's a little bit troubling considering the dive style Vulcan Red were aiming for.
Yeah, Vulcan Red just could not find any sort of openings. Ancient even investing in the Galactic Legend as we went into slow-mo there, so a little bit unlucky on the side of Vulcan Red, but thankfully they still have Genzo with the Feast, they still have Lil Rang with the calling card. Quan is very close to that Freedom Charge. But Kanga, they did invest a lot of that ultimate economy to, at the very least, secure this first round. So coming into this next round, it's going to get a little bit dicey because all they have to rely on is Tinny with the Rampage. Rezzer getting close to that Fate of Both Worlds, but with Vulcan Red having a chance to get really, really aggressive at the start of this first fight, there's a world where Vulcan Red easily take control of that first point.
They're gonna need to utilize the pseudo ult advantage that they have here. Try and, again, maybe find an early assassination onto Rezzer. I think that would be the highest value pick you could go for. You know, 80% that Fate of Both Worlds. I mean, you kind of want to take that off the field so you can maybe get Lil Rang active there with that calling card. I think that's your best foot forward, but Tinny gonna put 2 big feet forward on the point and then turn them right around to try and peel for the back line. Catches Quan in his midst there. Genzo gonna pop that Feast of the Abyss. A lot of ults ringing out now. There's that Devil Beast Rampage coming out, but Quan with a nice little backhand there onto Juicy, but it's traded out as the CYA comes out. Isaac getting one, Rezzer with one as well. Everybody from Kanga getting a piece of the action, and Tinny with a 2-piece cleans it up, and Kanga again get the first cap.
And with only the Rampage, it was enough for Kanga to take control somehow, some way. Vulcan Red, they did invest the Feast of the Abyss, but nothing else was there to follow up. Great tap onto Miracle there to extend the stagger onto Vulcan Red. Lil Rang just never found an opportunity to use that calling card. Now if he does invest in it, it's just going to be matched by Rezzer with the Fate of Both Worlds, unless Quan decides to go in with the Freedom Charge to draw out that Fate of Both Worlds, as Kanga still not very close to their ultimates just yet. Vulcan Red still have a decent opportunity to flip the site over, but Kanga, with all this momentum, all this control, still gonna try to claw their way back with a quick pick on the Sector, which does force out Rezzer with the Fate of Both Worlds.
It also nullifies the BRB, which is why you have to pop that Fate of Both Worlds. You can't afford to lose a man that you can't bring back. Freedom Charge and Calling Card both coming out now from Vulcan Red, trying to seize the moment. Ancient able to find that Elim there onto Juicy. Good stuff coming out early on from Vulcan Red. They might be able to find the flip here as Genzo taking down Rezzer, and Ancient again just letting the Elemental Blasters blast all over Tinny. And Quan with one there onto Revzy, and Vulcan Red have finally gotten their foot in the door. They're on the board with 2% and counting.
And Kanga, at the very least, will rebound their ultimate economy. Now it's looking a little bit better. Isaac and Juicy could easily team up with the Strangling Prison into the Kraken Impact Wombo combo. Revzy could even amplify the damage even further, but with Ancient going it up high with the Galactic Legend, everyone else on Kanga needs to run for the hills, as Ancient already getting a double.
Yeah, Revzy and Juicy, there is no front line, no damage now for Kanga, and they will be taking their leave, and giving Vulcan Red their lay of the land for the time being. One ultimate and done, and that's the value that you need of your Vulcan Red, especially coming up to a lot of ultimates for the side of KNG.
Now, how does KNG decide to move on forward here? They still have that wombo combo potential. Everyone else on Vulcan Red looking to disrupt, but a great freeze onto Genzo spells his demise. Sector even lasering down Quan. That's the entirety of the front line of Vulcan Red gone.
Lil Rang trying to retort, though, taking down Revzy on a flank there. Juicy tries to go for the hook, but whiffs, and that should mean Lil Rang has an opportunity to get in there again, but another beautiful freeze from Rester. This is why you pick up an expert like this. Well, he's going to be picked up yet again. This time, though, unfortunately, by Chronix and taken to a secondary location. He and Juicy being taken for a ride, and I'm sorry, this one is one way, and that way is down.
Unfortunate for KNG. It looks so good at the start, taking down Genzo off a great freeze from Rester. But unfortunately, we're not able to capitalize. Now, Vulcan Red taking the lead here in this round number 2. KNG need to march on forward. Final fight territory inbound, with KNG having 5 ultimates, as Vulcan Red need to find a way to counteract this barrage with only 2.
KNG needs to try and do this one efficiently. Good Elim there onto Lil Rang, shutting that one down. Kumiho unleashed from Miracle, but with the CYA damage, gonna be bursted down, forced back into human form, and Rester gonna clean up that Elim. KNG do find the flip, and they do it economically.
Yep, quick as you like it. Only a single ultimate invested. KNG are doing so good of a job just utilizing minimal resources to get maximum value. And Vulcan Red now on the back foot here. Their ultimates aren't going to be ready in this final fight again. Lil Rang and Genzo could easily team up with their ultimates, but here we go. There's the wombo combo we needed. Juicy's able to dunk down Lil Rang, so no calling card inbound in this final fight. Juicy stamps down another, might even go for a third as Genzo gets stunned up, likely taken down by Juicy, and that overtime meter is going down fast. Quan does get the portal down. Can they extend this even further?
Lil Rang has the calling card, gonna take down Sector. Pop that calling card, needs to try and find big value with this as Rester pops that Fate of Both Worlds, but Juicy is caught outside the dance floor yet again, but Lil Rang is feeling the full force of Tiny on the peel with that Devil Beast Rampage. The overtime wick is minuscule. Ancient gonna leave the point for a second to take down Revzy. Juicy trading one up for Quan. Another double for Juicy, and if he can find a third, it's on to Genzo. Another triple. Oh, give him the fourth, but the Tainted Voltage trying to find it onto Miracle. The uppercuts, it's not gonna matter. The fourth never comes, but neither does the recontest from Vulcan Red, as KNG with a swift little 2-0 will take Krakoa.
Vulcan Red looked strong in that second round. They did fall over quite quickly in round number 1, but round number 2 got a little bit more competitive. There was some moments where Vulcan Red had the upper hand, but it was really mainly because KNG invested so much of their resources to take over round 1, and they just came out empty-handed in round number 2. Vulcan Red easily identified that and were able to punish the lack of resources that KNG had, and were able to, at the very least, make it competitive. But unfortunately, KNG will get over the line. I'm looking at the final stats right now. Chronix doesn't go down a single time, but still loses out on the map. That is
he almost did.
Interesting.
He almost went down on that first sub map there. Juicy was really letting it, just taking over with those Kraken impacts. 13 final hits for him off a 21-5 KD, and you know, I'm looking over at the casualties. 7 for Quan, Genzo, and for Miracle. That's a lot of your dive heroes, and also your White Fox trying to augment the dive that are getting caught out by Juicy on this Winter Soldier. Just like I said, he just kind of takes over the whole fight once you get in a little bit too close. And you know, Bucky's not a hero that we see a whole lot of, but if KNG want to lean on that as a potential counter dive strat, it's working.
I mean, the Bucky's CC potential did get nerfed out a little bit. Those cooldowns are just a little bit longer, but he still pumps out so much of that damage, and with Isaac complementing it with a good Strangling Prison, potentially into a good Kraken impact, there is a wombo combo potential on the side of KNG that could threaten everyone on Vulcan Red. As Vulcan Red, they kept trying to go for that dive style of play, but unfortunately KNG were just so good at counteracting that aggression. Tinny on the Dino, Juicy with the Bucky like we talked about, but Rester and Sector somehow those two strat names rhyme together, but they've been doing so well at handling all of that aggression. Rester with some good absolute zero right clicks onto some important key players of Vulcan Red that were looking to disrupt anything that KNG were trying to do.
Yeah, and that's just kind of another tool in the counter dive arsenal that that KNG came out there with. You know, you can nerf the cooldowns for Juicy, but he doesn't really need the cooldowns. He just needs a couple of swift Ratastern shots, and if they find their mark, which they did almost every single time, I think, you know, did he miss a single shot? Who knows? Could be an oh wait, his accuracy percent was 37. He missed a couple shots. All right. Well, at least one round out of every mag was finding its mark and paying off for Juicy as he sails on through and gets KNG that first map win. But we've got more maps to play. We're going to take a quick break before map number 2. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back.
Anomaly located. Moving in. Target identified. Not exactly a warm welcome, Nueva York. Optic blast!
Well, it was an entertaining map 1. Things certainly went in KNG's way, but I won't say Vulcan Red didn't put up a fight, Dan. You were saying it in the green room, and I'm gonna spoil it. Rez did a pretty good job, huh?
He did a little bit of freezing, we'll say that for sure. During those fights, Rester was on point with those freezes onto Genzo, and even getting one onto Miracle on the White Fox as well somehow. No, it was Ancient on the Star Lord, actually. Sorry about that, but either way, some great freezes coming in from Rester and the rest, and he's looking to fit in really, really well on KNG's system so far. It's only been one map, and we're gonna have to see if it's gonna be consistent here in the second one.
Well, now, hold on. You did say it was one map, sure, but that's still enough data to give us to see whether or not this is a more flexible KNG than we saw last year. Or not last month.
It feels like last year.
It feels like last year, yeah.
It's that time of night. Well, Dan, what do you think? Are they more flexible?
I mean, so far it's looking just like that. I mean, KNG got a deep run back in preseason, and so far they're looking to be able to switch around their composition a little bit, right? They're able to play front and back. They're able to play maybe a little bit more of the dive, but at least in that first map, they weren't able to do just that because of how aggressive Vulcan Red were putting their composition in. They got aggressive in the band draft, and they got even more aggressive, or at least tried to, in that map as a whole. And KNG were able to navigate around that to perfection, and utilizing the Bucky of all things, were able to get themselves that map win.
I don't know that we saw a whole lot of flexibility out of them though. Like I think they just kind of like they played that front to back style and kind of went all in on the counter dive, and I think it was just a good scout and potentially a little bit of a misstep from Vulcan Red, as they're going to take us on our second map pick to Central Park. I look back to that pick and ban draft where, you know, Vulcan Red, they went all in on the Black Cat, all in on the Captain America, and KNG knew exactly what was coming their way. I think there was a clear vision of what Vulcan Red wanted, but how many times have you been in a toy store and asked your mom for something? What you want and what you get aren't always the same thing. What they wanted was to try and come in fast and run away with some of these quick dives, strike hard, strike fast with the cap and the black cap. What they got was checked by Juicy every single time.
That happened to me last week, CB, and I hope for sure next time I go to the toy store, I can get the toy that I want.
I hope next time I go to the toy store, Juicy is not there with a bionic hook with my name on it.
Why is he always there when we go? I don't understand. But Dan, as we head into our next matchup, we're just about ready to get to our bans and picks. Do we think there's a reality where Vulcan Red, having a better idea now with a more adjusted roster, can they find a way to take this map?
It's gonna be if Vulcan Red do go back towards that brawl style composition. They went all in on the dive, and it didn't really work out, right? We saw it happen throughout the entirety of Krakoa, and now going into the second map on Central Park, Vulcan Red choose the attacking side first, so they're gonna have to come in swinging here to figure out what they want to do. Maybe they do the same thing. They're just like, hey, I know it didn't work out back in that first map, but what if we tried it one more time? Maybe this time it'll work, but that's the big question for Vulcan Red. Do they want to do the same thing and try to make it work this time around? Or do they just say, hey, we're just going to hit the reset button like our roster did and try something different?
Well, here's the answer. They're going to try the same thing, and hopefully it will work out on Central Park. And I'm worried because I feel like Central Park, does kind of lend itself very similarly to Krakoa in a lot of different ways. And I do kind of feel like, sure, like there's some parts where the dive can end up working out in your favor if you play it correctly, but it's also pretty good for a lot of front to backs. We didn't get to see Grove, but that first submap or that first point, the choke, it's gonna have echoes of it. And now we're gonna see again Kanga just go straight for getting Tinny on that Devil Dino. Second verse same as the first.
But Vulcan Red do respond with a ban onto Luna Snow, so no CC appeal potential. Also denying the White Fox team up with Luna Snow, so no extra CC available for Kanga if Vulcan Red do want to get very aggressive here. Kanga will take away some of that brawl option, taking away the Phoenix in the middle of the ban draft. Usually so far in this day one of stage one, we've been seeing the Phoenix being that final ban for some of those teams, but Kanga are going to invest in the Invisible Woman to make sure that if Vulcan Red do go for the dive, they are able to put them at bay at the very least with that force physics.
I also think Invisible Woman, if you're going to try and play the front-to-back playstyle, she's just the best. She can put out a fair bit of damage when things start to break down and get a little bit brawly. She's also just the best when it comes to healing a grouped-up formation, much better than a Luna Snow or a Cloak and Dagger, especially the current iterations of Luna Snow, who's banned for both sides. And Vulcan Red gonna also hover a Protect onto that Invisible Woman. We'll see if they lock it in, but I do think that means that they're going to try and play something a little bit front to back. It's going to be kind of split, I guess. Maybe you play the Black Cat in a brawl style. We haven't seen, we've seen a little bit of her, but we haven't really seen her to her full potential. So, what exactly is the most optimal way to play this Black Cat? We kind of speculate it might be dive, but maybe there is a world where she fits into a brawl, same as like a Daredevil.
I mean, it really could just be like a two players on the side of Vulcan Red going for the dive, right? You maybe one player on the Black Cat, one player on the Captain America or a Venom. Go right in, try to draw some of that attention, and then try to come back in. At the very least, Vulcan Red are thinking about some of those brawl options as well. You don't have access to the Phoenix, but you still have access to things like the Star-Lord and the likes of Agent, who tried to make it work. And at the very least, Vulcan Red did have a little bit of that brawl potential now coming in, as they're still thinking about their team composition as a whole. They are on the attacking side, so we can talk about Kanga's setup at the current moment, as Sector and Revzy are going to team up together with the Rocket Raccoon and the Star-Lord, so Revzy will have access to another form of that iframe and some extra mobility as well.
Back over to the side of Vulcan Red, Miracle hovering over that Invisible Woman, and I do kind of worry about the Protect on the Invisible Woman. Prioritizing that over the Devil Dino, the ban from Kanga onto the Devil Dino came in immediately after that, and I'm wondering if maybe prioritizing that Invisible Woman might come back to bite them, quite literally, as Tinny was doing a whole lot of biting with that Devil Dino. It's what he's best at.
At the very least, Vulcan Red, I think we're okay with it, because if the Devil Dino does get taken one-sided. They still have Quan on the Emma Frost to try to counter and shut down Tinny. We'll see if that's able to happen here as we head into this first neutral fight. And KNG are looking to hold their ground here. Juicy even staying back onto the Bucky as a great portal allows Isaac just go crazy with the triple.
Oh, that is insane.
What?
Dirty stuff coming out there. I mean,
Okay.
Vulcan Red tried to go for a play, got portaled up, and Isaac just hit them all with a roundhouse kick. Like whack-a-mole, he puts them all down. That's disgusting. And again, Vulcan Red read like a book.
It looked a little cool at the start. Lil Rang setting up the portal, allowing Vulcan Red to maybe try to go for a clever maneuver, but Isaac, you know, kind of just kicked them right in their teeth. As Vulcan Red are gonna adjust a little bit here. As Ancient going over to the Elsa Bloodstone, who did see some nerfs coming in. Juicy will be brought right back, so that's gonna be the BRB expended. Rez gets taken down dangerously well, but is able to seek refuge. But Lil Rang isn't as lucky.
Yeah, Juicy. There's no refuge from him. He's going to find another shot, though. And again, Vulcan Red, they're going to lose a man and respect it. I think they're afraid of KNG, and they should be, because Revsy getting angles on this high ground, taking down Ancient, and yeah, Vulcan Red, I mean, they're going to have to turn tail and run basically all the way back to the spawn door.
And now is Vulcan Red going to try to break through? It's going to be possibly the Moon Knight with the Groot Wombo combo. Lil Rang should be able to get his ultimate quite soon, but with Revsy raining down hell on the sky, Rez is even able to help him out with the invisible boundary. So Vulcan Red need to find a way back in. Maybe the Apex Predator is the solution to try to isolate any sort of member on the side of KNG, but with Juicy stamping down Quan and taking down Genzo, Vulcan Red are just going to get staggered further and further, and they're going to have to wait out this Kraken Impact to expire.
Another triple for Juicy. Not able to get anything with Bionic Hook, and like you said, Vulcan Red gonna let that Kraken Impact expire, fearing the third again. Lil Rang has a Hand of Khonshu, and Quan has that Strangling Prison, so there is a Wombo combo that could come out for Vulcan Red. They need to try and strike while the iron is hot, but Isaac isn't gonna let them do that. Dueling Psionic Seductions and an Invisible Boundary. Two defensive postured ultimates coming out for Vulcan Red, and that's going to make it easy for KNG to go on in, though. But Genzo with Isaac finds him. Hand of Khonshu coming out, taking down Juicy. We're going to have the BRB and the Cosmic Yarn Amplifier coming out for the side of KNG, but it's not going to be enough as Vulcan Red have managed to get their foot in the door, find this first tick, potentially the second. Tinny swapping over onto the Doctor Strange. Gonna try and portal the rest of the team back onto the point, though. Lil Rang gets caught out by Rester there. An early scout out coming out, and some walls coming out. A good diamond shield coming out there from Genzo, trying to get access to the backline, but Revsy has access to yours. They're already taking down one member. Looking to try and take down the second. Isaac getting active again with the Psychic Spear, taking down Genzo. Ancient deals with Revsy, but you gotta deal with this White Queen.
Somehow Lil Rang was put in a position where he could not get out of. KNG were able to punish this positioning error coming in from Lil Rang. Thankfully, Vulcan Red were able to get 2 ticks onto the mission area, thanks to the Groot Knight Wombo combo, but that's where the good news ends. We're going into Final Fight territory. Vulcan Red still need to take control, but with no ultimates available, apart from Miracle being close to the Kumiho Unleash, Ancient maybe could go crazy with the Apex Predator, but with Revsy going up high yet again, it's going to be hard for Vulcan Red to navigate this.
Yeah, and Isaac is just getting in there again with the damage, and that's a full team wipe. Vulcan Red wiped off the face of Central Park, potentially off the face of the earth. KNG stand their ground. They give up 2 takes, 83.83%. That's not going to be the loftiest of goals. That should be a pretty easy bar for KNG to clear, especially at the pace that Isaac is putting him right now.
I mean, Isaac was just putting on a lights out performance, shutting down 3 in that first fight off a baby portal from Vulcan Red to try to go for something a little bit spicy, but Isaac was able to shut that down quickly. KNG now on the attacking side. Vulcan Red, what can you really do in this situation? You only have 2 ticks to your name. That's the only sort of buffer that you have. So maybe you resort to something like the Adam Warlock, maybe you resort to something that can help bunker down, as Vulcan Red are looking to do just that. Chronix on the Mantis will allow Quan to get some of that extra utility for the rest of Vulcan Red, as Lil Rang and Miracle are going to round out the strategist backline with some of that extra damage amplification that's going to go onto Ancient on the Punisher.
I kind of question the Ultron pick for Vulcan Red. I know Ultron is in a really good place right now, and a lot of teams are playing him. You can farm up a fair bit of damage, especially onto someone like Tinny, you know, get a lot of those Rage of Ultrons, but you do also have access to the full Vibrant Vitality team-up, or like you said, you could have gone for an Adam Warlock as well. We'll have to see what Vulcan Red are cooking here. Hopefully they've got something here, because Kanga are looking to run away with this one. They've got Sector again on that Rocket Raccoon, and they know Vulcan Red aren't going to try and go for that dive again, especially on the defensive side, so that BRB is going to be a tool that likely won't get scouted out, meaning Kanga can play aggressive. They have that second lease on life. They don't have to worry so much, and they can take the fight straight to Quan, nearly find the Elim onto him, already forcing him back to try and get the rest of the heals from Vulcan Red, and it's a very little heal composition if Miracle gets split off a little bit too far, so he's going to be priority number one. More damage coming out onto Quan as Isaac pops that diamond form, letting the fist fly, catches onto Ancient, and will find the Elim as soon as the diamond form expires. Looking to try and take down Quan again, and he keeps just having to tuck his tail, retreat back to his healers, give more ground, put up walls, but it doesn't matter. Now the walls are standing between Vulcan Red and getting back on the point. The invisible boundary coming off, but it's so far off of the point that Vulcan Red can only hope to use it to try and get back in the fight, not win it. The fight being brought to them is Juicy with the final judgment, and Revsy with the end song Inferno look to put the exclamation mark, stamp this one closed, and secure the dub for Kanga Esports, as Vulcan Red have nary a thing left to say about it.
Both sides really went for a more poke-oriented composition, right? Both sides trying to poke and prod, see what sticks. But then the ultimates
Kanga's
came
composition
in.
a push composition, because they pushed Vulcan Red all the way back into that tunnel. And like, what do? There's just no damage. Like, you can't bounce back. There's no damage.
I mean, shout out to Isaac as well, putting in those shields right behind the front line so that the front line on the enemy team was not able to get the healing because of that shield blocking all of that potential. And Kanga were able to just utilize that to perfection, right? Putting Isaac on the Emma Frost, putting those shields right behind the vanguards of Vulcan Red, and no one on Vulcan Red were able to secure the space, because as soon as they realize, hey, I'm being walled off from heals, everyone on Vulcan Red frontline have to pull back, and that's when Kanga pushed in to get all the space.
And you talked a little bit about Genzo on that Emma Frost, you know, potentially serving as a counter to the Devil Dino, but what happens when you're just getting Emma gapped? Like, the Devil Dino becomes, you know, not to call Tinny a non-factor because it was anything but he kind of doesn't even become a part of the equation. He can just, you know, do whatever he wants, run roughshod over the rest of the field, because, you know, Isaac is just too busy showing Genzo how it's done, and 10 final hits, 13k damage, matching up with Revsy's 13k, and, I mean, Juicy was 16, like, maybe Isaac was a little bit on cleanup duty, but you can't discount what he was doing, especially that beautiful play. You know, Vulcan Red tried to get cute with that baby portal, like you call it, and Isaac is just like, no, saw that one coming a mile away, my friends.
Everyone was just ready, just like you literally said it, right? Whack-a-mole, just kick him down as Kanga. Quite convincing 2-0. So far, Rester is looking very well slotted into this roster, and maybe this is the roster change that they needed in order to get another deep run, maybe even get themselves a spot in the Pacific playoffs that's going to be happening later.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see them again get another spot in the playoffs. I'd love to see them make a deep run. They're such a fun team to watch when they're firing on all cylinders. And I think with this win over Vulcan Red, they have separated themselves from a team that was in the past towards the lower end of the pack. Kanga still haven't quite cleared some of their contemporaries in the middle of the pack, your DXAs, your JFTs, or potentially even your Furies, who could potentially be an obstacle for that. But they definitely got themselves off on the right foot with a dominant win over a team that is still kind of on the restructure.
I mean, what's there to say that hasn't already been said by you two, right? Kanga absolutely came in, they dominated, and yeah, I you know, of course, you were both completely right about what you're saying, but Dan, I think, hit the nail on the head when it came to the synergy diff. We know Vulcan Red made quite a few changes. Kanga only really made one change, and let me tell you, I think the influence went both ways, man.
Yeah, it's gonna be How does Vulcan Red decide to rebound here? They do get sent down to the lower bracket, but there's still another chance for Vulcan Red to pop off. At the very least, in the lower bracket, maybe they make one hell of a run back into the grand final. You never know. It's a very tall task. Don't get me wrong, but it's not impossible. The chances are low, but it's not zero. So we'll see if Vulcan Red do end up tidying things up as Stage 1 rolls on here in OCE.
I think it's a little bit of a rough position for Vulcan Red. Like, this is one of those teams that's like, we're already in a double elimination bracket, and you can kind of see the vision with this team and like the kinds of plays and the kinds of synergies that they're trying to shoot for, and all that you would need in that situation is time for that to all come to fruition, but they don't have it because they only get this game, which they've already lost, and now they get one more game in the lower bracket, and if it doesn't click right then and there, they're out of chances.
Yeah. But ring ring, glass half full, we have Sektar on the line, and we're going to be seeing exactly KNG. How did they click, and how did they make so many adjustments over the last month to make themselves truly shine in this matchup? Oh, Sektar.
There we go.
Hello, my friend. How are you? You are in
good.
the void.
I am in the void,
good.
yeah.
So, you know, I think the elephant in the room is that you've only made one roster adjustment when it came to your squad from preseason to now, and things are looking pretty good for your team. So walk us through having Retzer on your team and like what that's looked like prepping up for Stage 1.
Yeah, I think we've really leveled up in the off season. You know, Resta comes from XOXO, so, you know, that's already a good team in the, you know, all of Pacific, really. I don't want to just say, you know, Asia, like, you know, I want to include OCE in that. So, you know, he's a really good player, and I think that we're kind of looking a lot better than we were in the preseason.
I did want to ask one quick follow-up question off of that too. I'm not sure if you had any say in the decision-making process to pick up Retzer, but even just playing with him, scrims, and even the matches today, what gave him that it factor to have him on your team?
I think we really mesh well together as a backline. You know, we both have a really similar play style, and, you know, we have a lot of similar ideas on, you know, how we should be playing the game. So I can always just like trust him in just knowing that, you know, if I'm in trouble, he'll be there. You know, if he's in trouble, you know, I'll be there to help him. And then, you know, with that trust on the back line, I think the whole team kind of gets elevated. So yeah.
Yeah, does seem to bring a little bit of invigoration to the backline. You and him do look like a stalwart one, and I'm wondering if that's going to tip the scales. Let me ask you about your old pals JFT and DXA. One map was what made the difference for you guys in that tiebreaker. Do you think it's going to come back to that again, or do you think it's not even going to be a competition? And if so, how many maps do you think you're going to beat him by this time?
Nah, I think we've really got a good grasp on the meta at the moment. I was a bit confused today as to why the other team wasn't protecting Devil Dinosaur. Like, we were giving it to them on the first map, and then, you know, we were allowing them to have it on that second protect, and they just didn't do it, so we just banned it. So I think we have a really good read. We have, you know, a handful of comps. Juicy's been grinding Black Cat, and we didn't even show it today. So, you know, we can do the dive, we can do this kind of front to back dino comp. You know, we've got a lot of options that we can pick from. So I think we're looking, you know, a lot stronger, and I don't think it'll come back, you know, back to that three-way tie again.
I mean, this is, I feel like this is a little bit more of a simpler question, right? You got yourself a spot in the upper semifinals. You're either going to be going up against Chiefs or a new team of Revolt. I'm not sure if have you guys looked into what Revolt have been doing throughout, I guess, in like MRC? Do you think they'll be a more formidable opponent if you do end up going against them?
Honestly, I'm not too sure. I mean, they kind of appeared like last second, you know, just before the stage 1 started. So really, we don't know what's gonna, you know, go on with them. So we'll just have to watch the official and, you know, see, you know, what they bring to the table. I think last season, since we were going so hard for the three-way tie, we really didn't have any time to prep for Chiefs at all. So it was a really bad showing from us, without, you know, because we were prepping for JFT and DXA, it felt like that was the only team or the only teams that we versed the entire tournament. So when it came to Chiefs, we didn't really have that much of an answer for them. But I'm hoping that we make it a bit more competitive this time, and hopefully we can get a leg up on them.
Let's say it is the Chiefs.
Ooh.
Yeah. Let's say it is the Chiefs. What's the score
Let's say
gonna
it is
be?
the Chiefs. I am gonna say that it'll be 2-1 and we beat them.
Okay. All right, a little humble king energy there too, but still confident that you can take the win. I'll take that. Sectar, you have the platform right now, dude. If there's anything you want to say to those teams, haters, fans, whoever, go for it, dude.
I think last season I didn't play my best, and I think a lot of people underrated me, but I'm really coming into this new season, firing on all cylinders, and, we're kind of an upgraded Kanga. So I think a lot of teams, and people, including you, CB, I saw your Preds on Twitter, putting us in top 6. I think a lot of people are underrating us.
How am I supposed to any of this?
I think a lot of people are underestimating us, including myself, coming into this stage 1, and so I would be scared for the new Kanga.
Okay. Well, I'm always excited to see a new Kanga come on by. Sectar, thank you so much, my guy. I'm sure this won't be the last time we interview you, especially with the new upgraded Kanga.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, guys.
Absolutely, Sectar.